Getting everything set up here. Good morning, Keyspire. I mentioned yesterday that I would do a VTB video, and I thought if I did it live that maybe if anybody's out there, they might want to come on and ask some questions, because that's really what I want to be able to break down today. It's very clearly, very simply how the numbers look, why somebody would give you a VTB, and how do you negotiate it. So VTB, right? It's a very common term, and it's a vendor take back mortgage. So I have to tell you, the first time I'd heard this term lots as well, and everybody is saying, hey, you've got to ask if they want a VTB, And I was looking in the listing, and this listing said seller is open to a VTB. So I was like, awesome, I'm going to call. So I called the realtor, and he's like, yeah. You know, the seller's interested in a VTB. Just let me know, put it in your offer. And I was like, excellent, thank you very much. And I hung up because I was like, I didn't know what to say after that. I didn't know why I would be doing this. I didn't know how to, I couldn't put a concept into my mind as to what this would be. So a little bit about, to continue on, yesterday Danica was asking about some large multis, 4, 5, 6 units. Those are some great properties to be able to negotiate vendor take-back mortgages, okay? And it's seriously when the vendor, the seller of the property, holds a mortgage for you, whether that be first place mortgage. So you don't go to a broker. You don't need a broker. The seller is your mortgage holder. Does that make sense? So that would be a situation that somebody has held the mortgage for, or held the property for a long time, and they have no mortgage on it. None. They own nothing. Okay, so they're selling it to you. For round numbers, we'll just say they're selling you a 5-plex for $500,000, but they don't owe anything. You might go to your agent, to their agent, and say, hey, is the seller interested in holding a mortgage? That's what you say. That's what the whole point is. Okay, so it's so there's varying levels of VTBs, vendor take back mortgages. Maybe the vendor has no mortgage, and he could be your mortgage holder. So let's just go with that for a second. Let's just say that the seller's selling a $500,000 property and he has no mortgage on it. And you say, are you interested in a VTB? And he says, yes. So you're putting him in first place. You're asking for him to be a first place mortgage holder. So what is typically for a first place mortgage holder? You've got a low interest rate, right? So we'll say 4, 5, maybe 6%. It's secured on the asset the same way a mortgage would be. And the seller is still looking for you as the buyer to show that you have some down payment, okay? So potentially you might get 80% VTB, meaning you still as the buyer need to put in 20%. Maybe you negotiate a 90% VTB, which is a little better than the banks, and all you need to put down is 10%. Okay, but typically a seller is still, even a seller, the vendor, if they are holding the full mortgage, they want to make sure that you still have skin in the game, right? That's the portion of a down payment. There are some times that they will ask for some history on you. If they're going to be your mortgage holder, then they want to know that you are qualified, that you have some financial stability. Who are you in the investor world? Is this your first purchase? Like, what's going on? So sometimes they will ask for some information for you as the covenant of the mortgage, okay? And so you have to provide to them some stuff, certainly not as stringent as, say, going to a lender. A lender will ask for your next born child and what's this penny that left out of your account without clarification. A VTB certainly gets a little bit more lenient. And why is that? Because the seller has held that property for the last, we'll say, 20 years. So the seller knows that property inside and out. The seller kind of thinks, if this buyer over here who I'm lending money to buy my property screws up, what's the worst case scenario? I own my property back. That's what the seller's thinking. So although they do the due diligence on you to make sure that you can purchase this property and you're a savvy investor and you're going to be successful at this purchase, they still have in the back of their mind, worst case scenarios, I get the property back, right? It's like best case, worst case. It's really not worst case because they've already owned it for 20 years. So that's a situation where you might be negotiating a larger vendor take back. And, when does that not work? Okay, so let's say you're buying this $500,000 property and the seller bought it 5 years ago as a flip or with a partner, and now they want out. So you say, well, and they have a $300,000 mortgage still. They bought it for $4,000, paid off some mortgage, whatever it is. Now they're selling it for $5,000. So really, they can't hold a 90% VTB because they owe a lender themselves $300,000. Are we following? So a vendor take back sometimes definitely takes into account what's the current mortgage situation on the property, and what is the vendor, right? The vendor, the person that's selling it, what is their situation and what are they planning on doing with the funds after they sell that house? So again, let's go back to that. So we've got two partners. They're selling the property now for $500,000 and they owe $300,000. So we'll just say that for all purpose sake, it was a 50-50 JV, and each one of those sellers has $100,000. We'll just say, again, for round numbers here, that each vendor now, each partner within that has $100,000. One is in a financial crunch, going through a divorce, needs that money, they're out. But the other one says, look if I sell it to you for $500,000, I might be able to hold a 10% VTB for you. You understand? Purchase price is $500,000, and you've got a vendor who's willing to hold a $50,000 second mortgage for you, because obviously the purchase price is $500,000. His $50,000 is not going to be able to buy it. Okay, and his again, you're not going to go into this with, oh, it's $500,000. That's perfect. I'll just take some cash that I have sitting here and pay it cash. Of course, that's not what we learn in KeySpire. What we learn in KeySpire is to be able to utilize leverage. And so we're going to go look for a lender through a broker or through, a preferred mortgage specialist, and we're going to ask them for a mortgage on this $500,000 property. Okay, so now you've got a $500,000. I'm going to make some notes here. $500,000. Okay, $500,000 purchase price. You're going to have a $50,000 VTB. My camera's not in the right spot. So $50,000 VTB. Is that even, can you guys see this the right way? I guess this isn't like live because I don't see anybody on here, but that's okay. And if it's backwards, then I apologize. So $50,000 VTB. We're going to assume, so we're large multis here. There are some lenders out there that you can go direct to the lender. So I'm being really clear here with my financing background. You cannot just go to a broker. So again, couple disclaimers I'm going to come into here, okay? When I'm buying a large multi, it needs to be in a corporation. So I need to incorporate. Brokers are not great in today's financing world with corporations, period, okay? Under 6 units, I have, what I'm very aware of are 2 lenders that that I can finance with 6 units or under in the residential world. And that would be a credit union, Meridian Credit Union, and RBC still classify 6 units and under as residential. So here, and this has all come up from what is my loan to value that I'm looking for from a lender, okay? And we're talking large multis. So I want to say that we'll say that we don't go to RBC, we don't go to Meridian for whatever reasons, because you say, oh, I don't have a job, I don't qualify, you know, I still have, there's some myths within there that I could certainly help you bust. But anyways, we'll go with, most people say, I don't have an income anymore, but I have some cash, so I'm just going to go to a larger lender. And those larger lenders, see, I always get my calculator out. Those larger lenders are going to be lending, let's say 65% loan to value, okay? So 65% LTV, okay? 65% LTV. So $500,000 purchase price with a 65% loan to value. So that's all I'm doing right now. Oh, you know what I said I could do? Oh, no, I guess I can't. I was going to say I could share my screen right now, but I don't think it works. So $500,000 purchase price times 0.65. I'm going to tell you that that's what we decided was going to be the loan to value, okay, equals, you're asking a lender for $325,000. Okay, $325,000. So then the difference is 500,000 times 0.35. Your down payment, okay, your typical down payment is going to be $175,000. Okay, see all this? Okay, $175,000. But the vendor is willing to hold $50,000. So that comes off of your down payment. So now your down payment on this property is really only $125,000, which would bring it down to 25% down payment. Okay? So how does that really work? I really want to conceptualize this for you so that you understand, so that you're not like, you're out in space here, okay? So let's just say you're buying this property for $500,000. You have a $50,000 VTB. You've got a 65% loan to value that a lender is willing to pay you, which is $325,000. And you would typically think you need to go to the lawyers with $175,000. Okay. So you show up on closing day, you go to the lawyer, you're getting all your documents signed, and there's a document for the first mortgage, which is $325,000. There's a document for the VTB for $50,000 that has terms on it, and that's all it is. Purchase price minus first mortgage minus second mortgage or VTB, and the remainder is what you owe for the difference of purchasing that property. Okay, so you are, so you really have, and so that's all it is. You just have less money to pay, and you have a second mortgage immediately on the property. Disclaimer, because there's lots of little nuances to this. I'm making it sound easy, and there's lots of situations where this truly is easy to be able to find VTBs. Not typically on a single family home where somebody's moving from one town to the next, from Toronto, and they're married, things like that. You're not necessarily going to find them in the residential world. You have to talk the language typically to investors. Okay, so I calculated here before I got on the call, I have 4 VTBs on properties. The first one was a duplex, and it was a turnkey duplex in Aurelia. It was urgent. It was a private sale, and I went in and I said to the lady, I'm interested in a VTB, and she said, what is a VTB? And I described it to her, okay? So we really need to be able to talk to our realtors, although what I love about the KeySpire Preferred is we're talking their language, so they get it. So you just have to talk to them about VTBs because they understand, okay? And they have to then convey the message to the other realtor, the seller's realtor, to be able to talk to the seller. So you see the steps, the distance away? So it's you to the agent, to the agent, to the seller. So the closer that you can get to the seller and have this belly to belly, this one-on-one conversation to be like, look it, okay? I really want to buy your building, but I'm wondering if you might be able to hold some of the mortgage for me just 10%, or if it's a larger one, you know, what are the benefits? And you really have to be able to talk in their language. So one, two, so three, no, only two. Two of the VTBs that I have was Mandy to seller. I was able to communicate directly to them that this is what I was looking for. Might they be interested in holding a vendor take back mortgage, even if it was just a small 10% mortgage, to be able to reduce my down payment? What does it do for the seller? Why would a seller give you a VTB? You know, the top reason is they're going to sell you this asset, and then they're going to go, what the hell do I do with this money? Oh, I'm just going to put it in my bank account that's making, you know, 1.5%, 2%, whatever. Maybe they don't have plans for their money, okay? And so you're offering them, if it's a second mortgage, you might be 8 to 10%. Right? It's a second mortgage. Frick, the Key Spire world, if I want a second mortgage, it's kind of a joke out there. I'm paying 17 to 20% for a second mortgage. So when you're negotiating a VTB, high five, don't be cheap. And you're going to be paying you're going to be paying some good interest for that 10% mortgage. So I think the majority of mine are 10%. Which, again, compared to borrowing from some Key Spire people, 10% is really cheap, okay? And so I'm paying 10% interest on the money that I'm borrowing. So there you are talking to the seller. What are you going to do with your money? Do you have any plans for your funds after you sell it? And they're like, well, no, really, I'm just going to put it in a bank account or put it in a GIC. And you say, well, what if I borrowed some of that money and I would pay you 10%? I'm pretty sure they're going to go 2.5 to 10. I would rather take the 10. Okay. So what are you offering the seller? You're offering the seller a higher rate of interest on some of their funds. What's another reason? Number 2 is that you're offering them a tax deferral. So if they sell a house, they're going to have a capital gain. Or a taxable benefit, however they have it structured, corporate or not structured. But if they lend you a portion of that, they don't pay tax on that portion that they have lent you until you cash that amount in. So if they're in a year and they've got to pay a lot of tax this year, and they can defer some of that tax payment to you because you're borrowing it through a VTB, then it's a benefit to them because they get to defer taxes to another another year. Okay, another year that might have gone by. What's another way? It's another way for them to know that they're still invested in that asset. It's a secure investment. Again, you know, they know that asset inside and out. They know how easy it is to be able to rent it. So again, if you as the borrower don't turn out, they can just take back over that property, knowing that they know it inside and out. Okay. And just another way for them to stay in the real estate game, because some of these people are retiring and they've done this for years, and they are where we want to be in 20 years. They have been there, done that, owned the asset, saw the markets go up and down, saw interest rates go up and down, and they're kind of sad that there's a part of them that aren't able to continue on. And if you borrow a VTB, then you're allowing that to be able to go on. Make sense? So my first 2 VTBs, again, were belly to belly. I was able to have that conversation with the seller, okay? The third VTB was on an 8-unit building, and I sat in the room with my realtor and the other realtor. And they actually came out to say, Mandy, we Googled you, and we know what you're up to, and my seller really wants to be able to make this deal work. So just tell us how you want to be able to, what you need for us to be able to sell this property to you. I know, I was shocked as is. I thought, why would people want to get rid of this building so bad that they say, Mandy, they had already had 2 deals fall through. So financing on larger properties is not a smooth road. It's not a yellow brick road where everybody's like, oh, I'm just going to go into large multis. Yeah, okay. It's just not that easy. I'm not saying that it's not doable, But I'm saying, like, buckle up, because this is not a smooth road. And so 2 offers had already fallen through on my 8-unit building, and the seller was like, seller's husband had passed away. She was now left with this building. They'd done all their research on me. They knew I was a local investor, and they just said, "You're it. What do you need?" And I said, "Well, realistically, I only had like $40,000 to be able to buy this $540,000 eightplex at the time." And so they said, "What do you need?" And I said, "I need $100,000." So they gave me $100,000 VTB, and then now my bank didn't, and I'll touch on this. The bank doesn't like to see you at it. You can't put a 20% VTB on the offer. So you're asking, the bank for 75 or 65% loan to value and a 20% VTB. Well, that would put you loan to value at 85%. Well, the lender doesn't like that, okay? So in this case, for my eightplex, good morning, whoever's on, I can't see it, but that's all right. For my eightplex, what I did was actually get a private third mortgage, or a third mortgage, but it was on my primary residence over here, totally separate from this 8-unit building. So if the lender ever looked at this third mortgage was over here on my primary res, and nobody could connect the two. Okay, so you do have to get creative as you're buying larger properties and see where you've got some space for equity. So in this case, the first 10% VTB that my seller offered was secured on the 8-unit building. The second $50,000 that was secured on my primary res was 0% interest. 2 years. Now, we ended up selling that house, and I called the seller and I just said, "Just so you know, I'm selling the house, but I'm happy to be able to pay off that VTB for you." And so she did. And she said, "Mandy, thank you so much. I'm really glad that the eightplex is working out for you. I really don't want to continue on this 0% $50,000 mortgage over here anymore." And so I gave that back to her. So I gave that back to her in about 6 months, even though I had a 2-year 0% interest on it. Now, silly, right? But because it was secured on our primary res, we moved into a beautiful home that I'm really happy with, and so it was well worth having it paid off. So again, here's this 8-unit building. I have a 10% VTB at 10% interest, which I still have today. Every month on the 15th, I'm sending a payment to my seller for the portion of interest. Actually, that one was interest and a little bit of principal. Majority of time, VTBs are interest-only payments. So let's talk about that for a minute. I know I'm here for 23 minutes, and if you guys are at the end of this video, I'm telling you there's still lots of information about VTBs. This is just giving you the tip of the iceberg. My mentor, Andrew Brennan, is known as the VTB King, and he asks for VTBs all the time. He's negotiated, 50% of his portfolio with vendor take-back mortgages, so that means he's not going to the banks. And so this video is short, and it's like scrunching all this kind of stuff up into here. But if there's more information that we need, maybe we kind of come together as a KeySpire community and we set up a time to do a live video, and we all just kind of come on. I've got a Zoom link, and we can have a VTB conversation if that's something that people might be looking for more information on. So where was I going? No, interest rates, paying them off. So we've talked about why sellers want them. We've talked about, I want to talk about where on, we were talking about interest only payments. What are the terms of a VTB? Okay, so the terms of a VTB, as many private lenders in the KeySpire world, those are the terms of a VTB. A private loan are very similar to a private VTB. And so in my case, I put the VTB rate on the offer. Okay, So the banks know about it, the lawyers know about it. There it is in your face, VTB right there in the offer. Okay, so Mandy, what does that mean? Okay, it means you have conditions in your offer. Okay, you have a condition that the property is, what are some of the conditions? Oh, I need financing condition satisfactory to the buyer. I need a home inspection condition. I need insurance condition, and I have a condition for a vendor take back mortgage. It's just a condition that you put into that part. So there we are. We're negotiating the VTBs on the offer. Okay, so it's something that you're right to the offer. So you're saying I would like a first charge mortgage. So if that's the case that you're asking for, an 80% VTB or a 90% VTB, you're asking for a first charge mortgage. If you're only asking for 10% and you're going to go to a broker, to a lender for the other 65%, then your VTB is a second charge mortgage. Okay, so you would like a second charge mortgage in the amount of, I typically don't do a dollar amount. I do a percentage. I like 10% of purchase price. So that way, if we're negotiating back and forth and we're we're 500, we're 480, we're 500, we're 490, like we're kind of back and forth that way, that it's still always assuming 10%. So if you end up buying for 480, you're 10%, which is 49,000. It's still comparable to purchase price, but you can fix that amount. If you only want a $25,000 VTB on this $500,000 property because you have the rest of the down payment and you're just looking for that little bit of extra for some renovations or something, then you can just ask the seller for $25,000, okay? Typically, so it's interest-only payments based on, however long you perceive that you're going to have to pay those payments, those second mortgage payments for. So, and it's a lot of paperwork and the sellers again. So usually my VTBs are longer. My VTBs usually are 5 years. 5 years, so that I know when I go to refinance the property in 5 years, if I've not really done much to these properties, then I'm able to refinance and pay off that VTB at the time of my refinance. Okay, because some people go, well, that's fine, Mandy, that you've borrowed, you've got a VTB, but how are you going to pay it back? So I'm saying I follow the term of the mortgage. I'm buying in an area that I know is going to go up in value, and so when I renew my mortgage, I know that I'm going to be able to pay off my seller. Okay, so no big deal there. So it's potentially a second charge mortgage, interest-only payments for 10% of purchase price. For a duration of 5 years at an interest rate of 10%. And in majority of times, I always say, and it's able to be paid off at any time with no penalties. Okay. And so that's really, again, your realtor will have the exact terms. I'm not a realtor. I'm not a mortgage broker, but so that's why I have those people on my team, and they have the exact wording for what you need to write on your offer to be able to have it on there. So there was a couple lenders that actually liked VTBs on the offer, okay? And they still like it on the offer, but their financing has changed. So I'll tell you that 2 of the VTBs that I had, I went to CIBC for the mortgage, and they were just duplexes. So CIBC gave me 80% loan to value. And so there's CIBC at 80% loan to value. I had a 10% vendor take back, which really only left me with 10% as a down payment that I needed. And CIBC was fine with it as long as it was on the offer, because they factor in the cost of those payments. So that's something we haven't touched on. We need to make sure that if we're negotiating a VTB, okay, a first charge VTB at 90% loan to value at, we'll say 6%. I'm talking from my own personal, just, what are we? We're Friday today. So I just removed conditions on a property that I got a 90% VTB, interest only payments at 6% interest. But I need to make sure that I can cover those interest payments at 6% for the net and still cash flow. And the answer is it worked. Okay, so you now have to make sure that your numbers still work with this VTB payment. So in the case of a second charge mortgage, bye honey, have a good day, there goes Larry. I'm just sitting here talking, doing what I love to do, talking about real estate, trying to get creative financing. I love it. Thanks for listening. So back to it. So you've got an 80% mortgage with CIBC, you have a mortgage payment. You have a 10% VTB, you have a mortgage payment. So you need to make sure that you factor in that mortgage payment into your cash flow. And on the KeySpire 4 ways to win, again, I can't share my screen. At the bottom where it's financing, and you usually click on the financing and click, and then it opens another screen, and you put in CIBC or whoever your lender is, and you put in your mortgage amount, your interest rate, and it calculates your mortgage payment. Then it goes back to the last screen, and under the first mortgage payment, there are second mortgage payments or other financing, okay? So I would go into that second mortgage payment and put in your monthly payment that you need to pay your VTB on. So that automatically calculates into your cash flow. Okay, so you need to make sure, and that's yesterday what I was discussing with Danica, was that no matter whatever VTB payment, that you still factor that into your cash flow, and that it's still a positive return. So there's no sense saying, oh, I'll take on a 20% VTB if that puts you over the potential cash flow for that property. Now, again, a little bit of a disclaimer with some of the experience that I have. Maybe I shouldn't. I was going to say, don't get caught up in cash flow if you know you're going to lift the value of the building. So my sixplex I bought, and one unit is vacant upon possession with another one that already has noticed that they're going to leave. Okay, so I'm going to have 2 properties turn over. So in my initial numbers, it doesn't look great, because there's 1 vacant unit and one coming up. So I've taken them out of my cash flow. So I'm going to have 2 vacant units. And I'm going to have a $25,000 renovation on each unit. So even though I'm saving money I don't want to, what I say, I'm reallocating my funds, okay? So instead of the funds going to a larger down payment, I have a smaller down payment, but the extra funds that I still need are going to go into renovations. I'm going to renovate those 2 units, bring them up higher to current market standards, and then I'm going to re-rent them, and that will cover any kind of potential shortfall that initially my numbers showed. So sometimes you kind of have to have a little bit of a forward thinking to be able to say that having a VTB on there, even though there's an interest payment, a mortgage payment, still makes sense to be able to purchase this property with this type of creative financing. Okay. One other thing I failed to mention as to a benefit to a seller. Okay. All 4 properties that I have VTBs on, I paid full asking. So is there, in a VTB, when I had a 90% VTB and I only needed to make a 10% down payment, I'm going to scenario out a few numbers here. Good morning, Anna. Is that I have a $620,000 sixplex. Is it worth me negotiating price if I'm getting a 90% VTB? Question mark. And I'd sit there and let you think about it. Now, there's this innate thing in majority of investors that I'm encouraging you to calm down a little bit, is that people say, well, just because they were asking 620 doesn't mean you need to give them 620. And there's lots of renovations and there's lots of work. And so I'm going to go back at 600. Okay, let's think about that for a minute. I'm really high level here thinking about this. So we have 620,000 is what the purchase price is. Look at that, it's 9:11 and people seem to be waking up. Maybe I should have waited a little bit. I'm glad that you're here. So 620 was my purchase price. If I'm like, you know, the majority of people, they're like, I need to get some money off. I need to make sure that I win on this price, and I'm going to ask for 600. Okay. In a VTB, in my situation with a 90% VTB, that's a difference of $2,000. It's irrelevant. So, good morning, Michael. If you're negotiating VTBs, you're potentially able to offer a higher purchase price because you don't need to negotiate so much because you already know that your down payment is going to be less. So it's for a seller, it's potential that they're actually getting a higher purchase price today. Again, because they're going to hold some of the financing. And in my terms, I'm asking for 5 years. You don't have to ask for 5 years. This 90% VTB is only for 3 years. The seller said, I'm 72. I'm not going to be around forever. And so I think I'd only like to have this for 3 years. And he's this cute little Chinese man. Oh my gosh, I could just squeeze him, except there was no skin left underneath him. He was all skin and bones. And so that's how I negotiated this one, was belly to belly at an open house that there was only 3 other sellers or 3 other buyers that came to. So really VTBs are going to be about your relationship, your reason why you want to be able to offer this to a seller, and your history. So if this is your first purchase, I want you to show up with what I tell people, your investor resume. So this isn't necessarily your corporate resume. It's not what you do in a job. It's who you are as an investor and why a seller would take a chance on you to be able to lend you and let them be your bank. Okay. Yeah. So we've talked about why VTBs are good. We've talked about how you can negotiate on them, benefits to sellers, how some of the numbers work, how it actually scenarios out so that you know when you go to the lawyer what you can expect. If I've missed anything, which I know I have, I'm happy to just shoot some questions on here and we can continue on this conversation and go from there. So thanks for watching Keyspire. We will let me know if there's other topics that, again, you want, like real life scenarios. I know all this stuff's in the logs of Keyspire, so it's a great place to be able to go and get some information. But if you're like, but I'm still not conceptualizing this, shoot me some questions. Guys, bye.